I'm here, the lights are on.
Are you talking about dude who closes his eyes and runs around, Sean? I do enjoy a hot dog as a taco. Thank you, Sam. That's excellent. Doing it just by description, it's just a flatter bread.
I mean, it's not. It isn't at all. There's no world where it is. I order a taco and they give me a hot dog, I'm pissed off.
It's the same way that a tomato is a fruit, but you don't put it in fruit salad. It's a vibe check. Vibe does not check. Check. Vibe. Fail. I'm not gonna lie to you. I loved this section.
I mean, it just keeps getting better, right? Hi, everybody. I didn't read the last chapter in time. I still find it crazy how much people are hyped on Feng, even now that we're caught up. I didn't read the last chapter.
You gotta be kidding me. Fang has got a thing to him. Like, he's gonna do us well.
No, I'm about to see his backstory right now.
Can I just say before we go on,
Yeah.
I might have read 168.
Okay.
Now we will begin.
167. Let's go.
How are you able to stand there smiling when it is you who have lost? Strength of your disciples is not your own. Don't run from me. Don't just leave me behind. Don't leave me by myself.
That's really good. Just act like an old man and rejoice in your son's growth. With the Shin Hakyu I learned from you, with the strength I learned from everyone, I'm going to surpass you and become the strongest fighter. Not enough after all, huh? Fang is out of the ring. The count will begin now. You still have a long way to go.
If you want to inherit Shin Hakyaku, you'll have to do it over my dead. But my body won't move. Untruth? Whatever, right? You get instantly riled up the rare occasion I hit you with a good attack, making this the perfect time to activate it. Way to go, Mr. Shen. This is sure to work. But you said you couldn't use that power on me. Yi, san. Oh man, you really are totally hopeless outside of fighting. What? Ba, untruth, reverses the action of a person the user is fond of. Zhu. That was untrue. A lie, you dummy. The victor is Shen Shen. Not bad, my dumb son.
Aw, that's so sweet.
See?
Okay, let's start by immediately addressing something that I think is so special about this manga. Now, not every mangaka goes for this. This isn't like the thing. But I think that this mangaka is better at ending story arcs than anyone I've read, insofar as basically every arc so far, with a couple of rare exceptions, I have liked them less reading throughout than I end up liking them retrospectively once I see how it comes together.
Okay, I agree, but on the other hand, this was fire. This whole thing was gold. It was fire from moment one. As I read the Shen part, I was like, meh, yeah, it's pretty good. Oh, okay, that's amazing. That's amazing. Also, I did read 168, and you'll be lucky I didn't read 169. So we start at 134 today. I have seldom enjoyed a section of chapters more than I did 134 to 168. It was so freaking good. Like, so freaking good.
The whole section was brilliant.
Did you feel like you were just in like an amazing kind of nostalgia meets hopefulness?
The series never loses something that it always has, which is how special each person is.
Yes.
How what they're good at is so important. But despite that, like, Fuuko is not the world's greatest martial artist. However, she is very, very good and has learned how to infuse her unlock into her martial arts in an incredible way. She's not the world's greatest scientist because, like, that's not where her talents are, but she's a competent enough scientist and engineer now that she built a ready-made lab so that Nico could get right to work building for her. She's not the world's best marksman, but she's an incredible sharpshooter who's good enough to land a shot when she needs to unload her bad bullets. It's great that she's been able to use her time to become so incredibly competent, but in a way that's still highlighting the skills of all the people around her. It's amazing.
Not only is she doing a glow up, not only are we getting her to unlock stuff in her the way that we always hope we will unlock our own awesomeness, how we all secretly hope we're the farm boy turned into wizard, but she also unlocks everyone else. So just being her friend means that if you're willing to put in the time and energy, you are also unlocked and have a glow up. And the reason that she is so incredible is she's not trying to unlock stuff for herself. She's learning things that she needs to learn in order to strengthen people she loves. And so it is friendship of fuuko that's really the superpower.
Yep. This isn't a character who came out of nowhere knowing everything. She had to work hard to learn all these, and she is explicitly not the best at the things she's doing.
Even at all.
Yeah, she is not the best sharpshooter, best martial artist, best scientist, best anything, but she's very good at everything because she had 200 years to train, and I think that's a great middle ground. She worked for all of it.
She works for everything, and it feels like she didn't waste a single moment on the earth when she wasn't with Undead. She hasn't wasted a single second. And I think that's really important to remember, that 200 years is how long it takes to amass billions of dollars. But lots of people could be on Earth for 200 years and not amass billions of dollars. She took care to learn how, and she, it does help that she knew which areas would be great, etc.
And she had the help of artifacts because she knew about magic powers. But
exactly. But regardless of all that, she used all her freaking time. She trained in martial arts, even though the first time she did the kata, and that's just doing pattern, and she was just not really that good. She worked her ass off to the point that Feng wants to fight her all the time, and it's so glow up. It's so glow up that she's become one of my favorite characters of all time. I wish her and Luffy could be best friends. Well, I feel like this author literally wrote somebody who could go toe-to-toe and be best friends with Luffy.
It's great because she's the same as Luffy in so many ways, but also entirely different in that, like, planning, strategy, and thinking about how to do this matters. Like, her goal is to do what Luffy does, but it's not like thoughtless force of personality. The thing that's special about her is her kindness. It's how open she is, how much she cares about people, but she does think about how to do this. There is thought in it. Like, she's a very different character, but like, I absolutely understand the comparisons for sure.
She is I'm going to be the ultimate friend like Luffy. I'm going to force you to fight for yourself and strengthen yourself, and I will be here for you. Get your own agency as Luffy. He is the jump in and do things without any planning, but on the other hand, she is amazing at pivoting. So when shit comes at her, even though she plans and plans and plans, if shit comes at her and that doesn't work, she's like, pivot, and does something new. So she's thoughtful in planning and uses her brain, both the same and opposite of Luffy.
It's great.
And I think that's pretty amazing. And I love that the moon is there watching us. I always felt like the moon was watching us, and there's more to the moon in One Piece. And I honestly feel like this person felt the same way when they were reading One Piece, and they're like, fine, I'm going to make the moon a real character.
What was your reaction to Ripped Fuuko? Okay, so my reaction's twofold, which is I think she looks amazing, and it's a great sign of her progress. But I think slightly chubby Fuuko's very cute. So, we got two feelings on it. I also liked her short hair, but the fact that it's become part of like her fighting style is way too cool for me to not love the crazy long hair.
Oh no, she's got to have this long hair, because let's be honest, it's a freaking incredible weapon, and infusing her hair to send out the unluck is genius.
Something that's really cool with how muscular Fuuko is drawn, this mangaka has a great knowledge of how skeleture and musculature interact with each other, and like, she is the same frame with muscle put on it. She doesn't look like an entirely different body, and I find a lot of people, when they do like, oh, they're buff now, kind of ignore that the muscles are attached to the same structures.
You know what I realized while reading this? Fuuko herself is incredibly lucky. She finds herself in the right place, right time to get in with people. She finds the right people to help her decide, and artifacts to help her decide what to invest in. Like, yes, she absolutely uses her brain. She absolutely works hard, but her as a human, she's got luck on her side. This is a thing I think is worth pointing out, because I think we're going to use it to Fuuko's benefit. And I think it matters because it made me pay attention to how the other people react to their own negating powers. Like, the untruth person tries to be a very truthful person in all areas.
The unfair person has a great consideration for fairness.
Exactly. And say with Fuuko putting unluck into the world and yet being a person who attracts her own luck. I think that's going to be a really important thing that happens later on, because as she's putting out unluck to God, I think she's also going to have luck on her side, which is going to help her team, because Fuuko brings luck and then she only brings unluck. if she touches.
I think there's something to it for sure. I've been thinking a lot about like the deeper implications of the unabilities, like having the guy who is the liar tell everyone his ability is unbelievable. I think that's fantastic.
That was amazing.
Really good.
Amazing.
But then on top of that, we have the guy whose whole policy was, I'm going to carry everyone's power. I'm going to be the bad guy. I'm going to take on everything myself, and I'm going to carry all of you on my back. He shows up with the ability to have lucky shots, right? That's what he's claiming his ability is. And then Fuuko is wanting to take on the world with, I'm going to bring everyone together, build you up. We're going to do this. I will be the centerpiece of building everyone else up. And she shows up with her power being unlucky shots. That's great. That inversion, I have to imagine that's intentional, and I love it.
I agree. It's pretty incredible that she's trying to negate everybody else's, like we talked earlier about how she's trying to negate everybody else's traumatic event that put them into here, and every other manga is like, trauma in the past is so important, and this manga's like, fuck that. But even though she's getting rid of everybody else's traumatic event, she couldn't have got rid of her own.
Nope.
And so she has to live with her own trauma while negating the trauma of others.
Well, because you brought it up, how sick is it that this manga, instead of having tragic backstories just be there for motivation and background, that our mission for this arc becomes undoing tragic backstories, acknowledging them and countering them, getting rid of them.
And then saying there's no need for everybody to be born out of trauma. It reminds me of this show that I used to listen to on a podcast where the person was like, one of the things that pisses me off the most is that people think that in order to be a great artist or a great writer or songwriter, that you have to have mental illness. Shouldn't we be the type of people who are saying like, what does it look like to be an artist who is calm and within themselves and has a good life? Why do we have to expect our artists, in order to be famous, in order to do well, that they have to suffer? And that's kind of what this reminded me of, that the author was like, screw that. I don't want the characters to have to suffer. In fact, those things are only going to be there for Fuuko to negate. Also, it's a negating ability, and Fuuko goes in and is practicing that negating power.
Something about that ties into the postmodern reading of this that I really like, where we don't have to have these tragic backstories to exist as competent, good people. We have to have them to be in the story, because God is creating these curses, these tragedies that come with your powers. To be a main character, to be a player in the story, to have a role in the story, you need tragedy, is what's being declared. And in Fuuko's act of defying God, who I perceive as representing or being literally one of the other, being the author, you are counteracting the tragic backstories that are seen as an essential part of character and of story. And the pursuit Fuuko wants is for people to have a life where their tragedies are just those that are man-made, that they're not enforced by the being that I see as the author, which to me feels like characters choosing to not be characters, to be people, to live their life.
We were going back and forth about how one of us says video game and one of us says book. Mm-hmm. And then we kind of sat on this idea of, you know what fits video game and book, and the fact that they are all players, there are rules and regulations that they follow, there's leveling up, there's all these different things, because true to form, it does fit both of those things, 100,000 media percent, but it feels like it's an RPG.
Mm-hmm. Like, there's so many little elements, like the rules are set at a table, you have to meet at the table, there's a rule book that gives you the instructions, the way people move around is a being in the shape of a D10. There's a lot of little things that feel like they hint at tabletop RPG vibes, whether that's there intentionally or not. It is interesting.
Yeah, you get quests like structure in it. There's game-like rules and mechanics, progression of power and scaling, multiple realms and ultimate universes. Like, there's all sorts of things that run within a RPG, because both of us are like, it feels like a game, it feels like a book, it feels like a game. Yeah, and you could even have two DMs. And so we were saying, well, you know what has a lot of writing and has a lot of game is, you know, like tabletop RPGs. And then the characters in this can decide they don't like the role that gods have put them in, and they don't want to be part of these gods' plans, and they try to live their lives outside of the plan and win for themselves, which is a freaking, I mean, if that hasn't been written, if that's not what's going on here, someone write that right now.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going that direction, but we've talked about it being potentially the manga itself, which is the most meta-narrative you could do if the manga becomes aware that it's a manga. And
yes, it does feel like Fuuko speed running the perfect union.
Yes, absolutely.
That's exactly what it feels like. When I was watching this, we move ahead each time we move. So we're only 200 years out instead of like the times that it was, back in the Stone Age, et cetera, et cetera. And then Fuuko is like, look, in order to do all these things, I need to speed run. So it's collect everyone. Don't worry about how many people are at the table right away, but get them all to be a part of union, whether they sit at the table or not, because we don't want to have to lose people at the table and commit everyone to the table's things. And the skipping of the quest.
It's just crazy that I keep liking Fuuko more, honestly.
Yes.
Like, it feels the same as Luffy, because like I loved Luffy by Alabasta. I found him incredible. Him punching Crocodile through the ceiling was great. But the fact that I could continue to love him even more, like through things like Enies Lobby and his actions during Impel Down, like it was incredible. And we've gotten there so much faster. Think about it. This many chapters, One Piece was in like what? Little Garden, Drum Island, right?
Little Garden and Drum Island, yeah. And I wasn't a huge fan of Drum Island.
Yeah, we've gotten to this point of loving Fuuko so quickly compared to One Piece.
You know what I loved about her decisions in this? Like in 134, I was like, who's going to be the first person she gets? Her very first thing she gives a shit about is Nico. And she's with Nico and she's like, okay, this is the thing that I'm going to do, blah, blah, blah. And it made me realize how much she understood each one of the characters while I was watching her work with Nico. She's like, yeah, mostly what I save this money for is you, because I know that you, and then, his companions, because she knew the type of people that were coming in and were also big brains, et cetera, because I knew that you would be able to do these great big ideas that I have in order to speed run this loop. She knew him so well. She knew the things to pull him in. But even though she had all this talent at pulling him in, later when she's trying to get other people, she still just says, what is it that convinced you to join me? Like she doesn't rely on just herself. She's thrilled to bring everybody in to be part of it. She loves to share in the leadership.
The recruitment of Nico to me makes a lot of sense. Prove that physics are broken, and then he's already on board. He's like, this sucks, stupid ass, okay, whatever. That's great. Now, the recruitment of Unavoidable, the only shame here is, to me, this is the peak of this section. Like, I think this is written so deftly. It happens so quickly, the movement through it. Fuuko understands that this is someone who loves the respect and honor in boxing. This is going up against people they're matched against. He talks about weight classes. He's like, hey, you have the boxer spirit. That's great. I'm too big for you. This isn't a street fight. This is a sport about honor and categories. And Fuuko has to convince him, I'm not a boxer, though. I want to fight you in the place we are the same category, human beings. Everyone tells her, use your negator ability. You have to do this. And she's like, no, this is the last chance he gets to fight as a boxer. This is the last chance he gets to fight as a human being. I'm going to give him a fight as a human being, and starts using her powers to their fullest the second Unavoidable activates, so that his tragedy is reshaped into a promise that he's not done, that he still has a league of his own, that he still gets to fight against other people who can give him a fair fight, because she's doing okay, but she's getting throttled before she's able to use her negator abilities, and once she can, she's getting stupid hits in. She's using a spotlight to blind him, getting things to fall around. It's fantastic, and it's this amazing way of so quickly make you realize, oh, she's found a way to turn a tragedy into a promise. And it adds so much character to him, and it adds so much depth to Fuuko's understanding of people so quickly. And I think anything that can write something that like deep, interesting, unique, well-structured that quickly, that's miraculous to me. Like, I think that is...
I loved it, don't get me wrong. But I felt without the Nico take-in, the reason that her recruiting of him was my favorite is you couldn't have had a punch-out thing look so deep, academic, thoughtful, philosophical, etc., unless you had had the conversations that you had with Nico, the ones where he got so angry and he says the answers and the rules that the scientists of yesteryear dedicated their entire lives to uncovering are being rewritten at the whim of some lousy god, and we're not even given the right to realize that it's happening. So for me, this whole discussion with Nico and the way she goes in with Nico about God versus science versus strength versus powers and how they have this whole discussion is the only reason the rest of this arc sits so comfortably where it sits, because then she can go into a punchy punch round where she is understanding the depth of what's going on here for Void and what needs to happen. And we see it in this deep philosophical way because we had this entire thing about what shouldn't exist, what should exist, what science should be versus what God should be allowed to do to you. And so because we had this whole conversation with Nico and this incredible setup where she argues with him and then says, I figured that since you were the Nico that I knew that you would do this and you would understand it, but I didn't, where he said, I'd only be interested in someone who's an intellectual match, and I want to take on God because any God that would take on the world and negate the science of it and not let us understand who we were and what we were, how are you going to make use of myself and science? The circles represent the negators. And he said, I'm in. Why am I in? Because I am so pissed off that science isn't the thing that I think it was, that the existence of these gods tears down my ability to work hard for prediction and to understand my world, that it can be flipped up and then not even the memory is left with me. Fuck that. And so when you have this basis, and that's the first person you pick up, it allows for all of these other things to happen and feel like they have stability and feel that you can go back into the Umas and them being so unpredictable and chaotic. But we have this stable platform that the relationship between Nico and Fuuko built.
And I think it is such a great act of writing that we only get to understand Nico in the previous loop at the very end.
Yes.
So that he's so fresh in our mind, and then we immediately recruit him and get to address all of the things that were brought up with him and see Fuuko's ability to fundamentally change him. I agree, it's incredible. I prefer the story with Void because I've never seen something that felt so complete so quickly. Like, it told you Void's prior backstory almost entirely through implication of how she was acting. Like, it's entirely through implication that you understand how much it destroyed him to lose fighting, to lose having this challenge, and having Fuuko have learned the lesson she learned from Andy traveling through his book, that you can just teach someone to reinterpret the world and it can reshape how they view everything. She reshaped Andy's view of death and it changed his abilities, and she reshaped Void's perception of fighting and it changed everything. But I do fully agree with you that the thing with Nico is absolutely brilliant. This whole section.
I just think the rest of it couldn't have stood the way it did unless we'd had the stability of the movement with Nico and the philosophy that we had with Nico. We can hate characters the way the author intended.
Yeah, Roxanne actually pointed out something great, that it was intentional that Void wasn't remembered, that he wasn't thought about kindly when he died, and they show these hints that he was an alcoholic and like lonely and sad, miserable, that he didn't have any friends in the organization. Like, that was intentionally written that way, and now we get to see a version of Void that is given life.
And I would still say Void in the last loop sucked.
Yeah.
I stand behind that. Void in this loop is killing it. Void in the last loop sucked.
And Fuuko's fixed that. Fuuko fixed Void.
I have to say, too, I freaking adore the Gina. Ugh.
The Gina thing, bringing Gina on was great. Saving Gina as their first mission, that felt like a real mission. The reintroduction of Feng, that he was just like launching himself around to find her, and that's what the Unluck brought, is fucking fantastic.
For me, it was Gina talking to herself.
Yeah.
Gina talking to herself was my everything. When I thought, okay, we're not even going to address the fact that there's been so many loops and da-da-da-da-da, and I'm kind of pissy about that, and da-da-da. And suddenly, when Gina's past self came out, I was like, oh, no, this is not going to be good. And instead of it not being good, having the past life Gina be like, don't F this up. Here is everything that happened. Here is why it happened. Here is what we did. And what does that do to Gina? I am dedicating my soul to Fuuko. I will show her that I am everything. I am a friend that is attached to her soul to soul.
Beautiful is that too, that we see the past Gina think about her love of Andy and be like, yeah, that motivated me. Do you have someone you love? And seeing Gina be like, it's Fuuko because she was my first friend. Like,
it was amazing. And seeing the idea of that first friendship come back up with Fuuko and Mew later on, it's Mew, my very first friend. It was amazing. Also, the Ichiko Nomori arc, the way that it was done this time and how she saved her and made sure that it didn't have to have the same way that it did before. Everything she's doing, it was like, as I was reading these chapters, I kept being like, there's no way this can get more peak. And every time I was like, oh my God, I can't believe she did that.
Someone's saying that I didn't see this. Apparently there's a little bonus thing that shows that the onion dress shirt Fuuko had all last loop was Gina's and it was too small for her. And now she got to pass it to new Gina. It's too big for her at first. That's so cute, actually.
Oh, you didn't notice it? It was so adorable.
I didn't see that.
And when she first puts it on, she's wearing it and she's like, oh my God, I can't believe that she gave this to me. And then it's so big on her. And then she's dressed in it. And I was like, oh my God, this is so beautiful.
I missed that's what it was. I thought it was like a sweater or something. Oh my God, I missed
She put it on and it was too big for her. And then she meets her past self and sees how she dresses. And she's like, oh my God, that was my shirt. That was my coat.
But also she sees how she dresses and is like, you're in your 60s. What are you doing?
Yeah, but also she sees it and she thinks, oh my God, all this time Fuuko saved this for me. And she understands that she took that off her dead body.
Yeah.
She knew she would come back here. It's amazing. Their friendship made me so happy because this one doesn't have any fake girl bullshit where they're like, you like my man. Instead, it's just like, no.
I mean, there was like a moment of that. And then she was like, whatever. We lost kid. We got to do what we can to do good.
Yes, exactly. Oh, so beautiful. I love their friendship in here. I love their friendship in here so much. I really do want to be your friend. I don't know if this unchanged mind will be any use of you, but if I can get as strong as you, that's all I can hope for. And then she said, those feelings won't change.
I love it.
I'm so excited to see the way they're going to do the quests because of all the skipping. I'm so excited to see what that's going to look like.
The only thing I'm sad about is that the skipping allowed him to circumvent the thing I was excited about, which was getting to see what this new world would be like with a bunch of different rules missing, because we sped run through adding a bunch of things to make this world more familiar, which is fine. Like, I think it's probably storytelling wise a good decision and will smooth things over. As the author, you now don't need to track what's not supposed to exist in this world all the time, which would get really tiresome. But I was excited to see what a world with a bunch of rules missing was going to look like.
But I was super excited about this when she was like, I saw them doing it in the artifact's memory. I can do that, right? Yes, but you'll be receiving a penalty. Penalty, the addition of Uma Ghost. And immediately Fuuko was like, great, we need Uma Ghost. That works out really well for us. Like, she wasn't upset. She was like, Uma Ghost worked out. That's in fact why I'm alive. Does being a ghost being added really inconvenience us? Most of the penalties aren't anything to fear on their own. There were just people who abused them last time. And so this is why this is so incredible. She is really saying these penalties aren't a problem. The problem really comes from getting used to a world that doesn't have them and then having them being added. If we just put them in and then go about our business, then we're going to act and work as if they've always been here. And then we won't feel like we are being penalized. It'll just feel like the normal world. So our brains will actually figure out how to win with their existence being part of it, rather than our brains being taken aback and us being at a loss when they come into being.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was genius.
It was great. I love Apocalypse getting pissed off. Like, clearly she's figured out the right move and Apocalypse is like, stop it, stop, no.
And I'm going to be spinning 20 more times, so keep them coming. 20 times means 20 years. What about the guys on the outside? They happily agreed to this. I was just like, yes, I cannot wait to see their lab when this is done.
What are my thoughts about Uma Crab? I'm glad he's back. I think it'd be sad to not have Crab. Good job, Uma Crab. I'm glad you've returned.
Uma Crab, you're the real one. Hey there, YouTube. It's me, Mama Drawk. Welcome. If you're seeing this because you got to this point, you obviously already like this. All I'm asking you to do is, if you tell 2 friends and they tell 2 friends, eventually 200 million people will read this and I will never have to worry about not seeing it end the way it's supposed to end, because this is one of the greatest manga.
Yeah, that's right, YouTube. The plug isn't for subscribers. subscribe. It's for Read Undead Unluck.
Listen to me. Tell all your people. Become a pusher of Undead Unluck.
Oh, I don't know how to convince people. Well, you read about Fuuko and her convincing people. Take a page out of her book.
Why don't you just get a tattoo on your forehead that says Undead Unluck? People will ask about that.
Why don't you understand people's deepest insecurities and tragedies that are about to befall them and how to put yourself in harm's way to make their lives noticeably better and fix every problem?
Oh yeah, and if you have time, subscribe and like this because it actually helps us out. We are reading Witch Hat Atelier right now inside of our Discord. We're also going to be reading Berserk because I like myself too much and we're trying to change that.
Oh, that's so good for you. I've been looking forward to it. I don't know anything about it other than it inspired Dark Souls and it's brutal.
Also, you can send us letters or gifts to the thing that's coming up on your page right now. I am wearing one of my gifts tomorrow to school. Is it from Undead Unluck? Yes, because it's one of the greatest freaking manga ever. Send us letters telling about your life or postcards from the cool place in the world that you live. We live in a pretty cool place. We always like to find out about other cool places. We are going to start sending out the invitation to other creators to come join us for One Piece content. They are going to pick their favorite area. We're going to start from the beginning of One Piece and work our way through the entire manga. Merry Christmas!
Merry Christmas and a New Year's to all.
Happy Halloween Valentine to many. And that's all I have to say about that. Okay.
Uma crab and Uma insect are sort of the only thing that feel like they go against my Garden of Eden reading of it. But also, you're allowed to make your Garden of Eden not have crabs and insects. Like, they don't have to be there.
Here's where she says it. The time gap between us and Miss Gina and Nico's group shows up in the 70s, but if we keep doing this straight one by one, the next closest tragedy is 28 years away. If we have 28 tries, then the more we spin, the better off we are. True. This is the speed run. These penalties for passing aren't drawbacks to me. They're just ways to avoid unnecessary quests, as well as time-saving measure to expedite recruitment. Pass, pass, pass. These penalties yield the greatest profit ever. So she's also understanding that some of these things being there are going to be profitable. Like the ghost existing is the only reason she lived.
Mm-hmm.
I love when she got to Andy and she actually had to decide, not yet. What a huge moment to show the level of strength she has as a person, that we go neutralization of Uma burn, reward location of negator undead. And she just stops and sits there in that moment and goes, not yet. Right, Andy? Oh.
It's so crazy how well this whole section comes together with one of the protagonists missing.
Yes.
Literally half the title is gone.
And it's incredible because their love is so important to her, whether she was willing to say it out loud and understand that she was in love with him before. Their love is so important that it isn't fragile. And she knows that that poor man just had to go since the beginning of time, that he told her, please just move on. I need to do what I do. You need to do what you do. And she's like, okay, I trust you. And then even though she had an opportunity to find him and meet him, she was like, it's not time. I've got to do the things that I said I would. So I have to put all my focus in this area. I cannot wait until oh my God, when do you think we're going to meet Andy again? Like I can't wait, and it's giving me so much to look forward to.
I think the next section we read, we're getting Andy back partway through.
Yeah, I'm thinking so too. I'm so hoping so, because I'm like, I want my Andy.
I'm so excited for him to see how Fuuko's changed. I think he's going to say something about how she hasn't changed at all, and you're going to be mad, but it's going to be being like, yeah, this is who you always were. Now you just had time to embrace it.
No, if he means it as it was always inside of you and now you understand how badass you were the way that I always knew you were badass, that's different than you haven't changed at all. You're just the same person you were despite all the growth you went through. That is a very different thing.
Fuuko was mostly gone last section. She was dead most of the time.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Andy's is the end times, the dead, and hers is the luck times, the beginning and putting things together and fixing backstories.
I honestly, for a while, hoped that Andy was on the moon.
That'd be kind of funny, but he's got to get all the artifacts.
It is decided we will go after Autumn first. I was so enamored with the fights here, but the thing that I was most enamored with is Fuuko in her speedrun is also helping people to learn who they are and how to beef their power.
Mm-hmm.
So when Fuuko says, Fuuko, you have an idea? I don't. I do have one idea in mind. I think Miss Gina can do it. And everyone like, what? What are you trying to force her? She just joined. You've got it all wrong. But Miss Gina is a beast at her max potential. Right now, she's limited to making her surroundings unchangeable. But if Miss Gina learns how to handle unchanged, she'll be powerful enough to one-shot Autumn. And then telling her why she believes that and saying what it is that will strengthen her. I'm going to take a hit and turn into a book. And everyone's like, oh shit, that's fairly serious. I was just I was so thrilled the way that Fuuko puts herself at the center of harm's way all the time, but doesn't spare her friends. Tells them this is how you can bring yourself up and this is how you get stronger, but I'm not going to spare you. You need to build. Here's the method in which you can do that. I loved it because it's so, I have to say it, it's so Luffy.
Yeah.
It's such a more direct mentorship in that she's actually telling them the things that can help them gain strength, and that she's not just saying, I know you've got this, you can do it. She's saying, here's a way in which you can do it, and this will help you grow, but you gotta bloody do it. So it's such a Luffy thing to say, like, I'm gonna put myself in harm's way too. I will be right there with you. But you've got to do it. And as I was reading, I'm like, oh, you would be BFF with Luffy. I want to cross over. That's all. I just want to cross over.
Kind of hard to fit One Piece into the Undead Unluck world. Hey, here's a question, right? I had a realization today because you aren't a hashtag gamer.
That's not fair. Did you hear about my tiny sticker tail game?
I did. I heard that my wife beat it in like 4 hours. So here's where I'm at, right? I had a realization that goes with my postmodernist take. So far, it seems as though the artifacts are all named after either figures of mythology, stuff that like comes from a shared mythos, or are pieces of media. Because we have Life is Strange, that's a video game, Soul Calibur video game, Blade Runner movie. It seems like everything is either from mythology or is a piece of media. And my thinking there is that if this is meant to be a game, a tabletop RPG, or a manga, the reason for that is because these are the author's inspirations. And my questioning I came to is exactly, Raven, since this dude has admitted that one of his biggest inspirations is One Piece, do you think we're going to get an artifact One Piece at some point?
Oh my God. From your mouth to the artist's ears. Like, I hope so.
Not only the memory card, as far as like that's a video game item, not only memory card, but memory card was found on disc this time. Being like the thing you'd shove in a PS2, the number one selling console that used memory cards.
Yep. Totally different.
Yeah.
It was a total change and a gaming change. I did a whole deep dive into your postmodernism thing. So, because I wanted to narrow it down, you have to do a delete your art.
Oh, I don't even know what to do about that.
So, characteristics of postmodernism in media is skepticism of the grand narrative. So that's like you are skeptical of the overall universal story, like the religion, the science, the process that claims to explain all aspects of life. And instead, it values localized, diverse, or fragmented perspectives. So think about it in a way that science can't explain everything in a story, or magic can't be the thing that explains everything in the story, or religion, etc. That there's skepticism in any of the overarching things. Okay, go ahead.
So that applies in basically all of the stories. A story about killing gods, there's skepticism of God, but also the grand narrative of story itself. We see the undoing of backstories here. We see placement, the removal of tragedies, the removal of tropes. We see fights circumvented, the idea that everything needs to end with a climactic battle where the fight is super cool and we're excited to see the bad guy lose is circumvented. In basically every way this plot is structured, it is meant to be taking apart the grand narratives it's supposed to be putting through.
The second idea for postmodernism is it blurs boundaries, like distinctions between genres. You just said that. Disciplines, high versus low culture. It mixes styles and references and forms, allows for irony about itself. So blurring boundaries just means it doesn't feel that it needs to stay in a single genre, a single area. It doesn't need to be high or lowbrow. It can be anything they want.
Oh my God, the biggest blurring boundary is obvious. This is being published in Shonen Jump. It is in theory shonen manga, but it's a romance story, which is supposed to be shoujo. And there's even a note in here kind of highlighting that with Akira talking about growing up to be a shoujo writer, even though he reads shonen right now. So the idea of what fits in with the genre of shonen is challenged, especially with what I said before, where like fights are not staged nearly the same way. They're not a climactic battle we work towards and see the bad guy beaten. They often are tragic resolutions.
And then you also see Andy is a protagonist with a morally blurring kind of line between villain. He starts off by forcing himself on Fuuko right away. There's a lack of boundary between good and evil. And then it also blurs the lines between genres, action, comedy, romance, philosophical reflection, things. Okay. The next one.
I'm saying that's mostly a Western idea, but battle manga is not a Western idea. And when Western people say a shonen, they are referring to battle manga.
Deconstruction. So a central technique of postmodernism thought is that deconstruction involves breaking down all your ideas, texts, and concepts to show that they're not as stable or as authoritative as they seem. So it highlights the contradictions and tensions inside of your story. It is unafraid to break apart all the things that it built.
Yeah, I think that one is entirely present. I think that this story tries to deconstruct the foundational elements of itself constantly. I mean, I think like the best example for it, honestly, it'd be harder to make these arguments. And I feel like I would be less, oh yeah, I'm definitely right, and more, hey, this is my reading before this arc. But like, think about how much we deconstruct the earliest parts of this story. Even killing Unavoidable is an act that's entirely deconstructed in this segment of story.
For me, the deconstruction is really hit around Fuuko in the first half, where we're calling her a hero, but she totally deconstructs what a hero actually is.
Yes.
She isn't running around fighting in the same way. She isn't the violent force of heroics who's running off and using aggression to save the day. And she's just using the unluckiness around her and her friendship. Her friendship becomes the heroic weapon. Also, that the traditional assumptions about immorality and invincibility and how absurd it is that Andy has endless regeneration. Okay, intertextuality. Postmodern works often refer to borrowed elements like text, genres, and historical moments. This creates layered meaning between all the highlights and interconnections between cultural. I mean, come the shit on.
Come the fuck on. Soul Calibur's the name of an item. Like the entire thing, right?
Every single thing in Undead Unluck is how many freaking things can we use from the real world that we take in? Everything from Western Ethan mythologies to superhero comics, songs, romance, manga, everything. Like, it's almost ridiculous.
The manga characters in this series write a manga that uses critiques from the original draft of its own manga. Like, someone writes this manga in the manga as well as like a predicted, like there's so many elements of bringing in the idea of other stories. We barely need to talk about this one.
Playfulness and irony. It embraces humor and parody and irony, mocking the seriousness of certain situations or cultural forms. It questions ideas that there's a correct way or a serious way to understand the world. Okay, again.
Yeah, I think this one is one of those points that's harder to argue because it feels very subjective, but I think the biggest examples of it come from Andy's behavior in the story a lot of the time.
Yeah, there's also multiple dimensions, and postmodernism loves to have an idea of embracing multiplicity for the idea that reality is not fixed. Like, there is no linear reality. Reality as you know it could be many things. And then it feels like it uses the rules of RPG to create a fragmented non-linear narrative. And I think for me, it's both those things. And finally, fragmentation.
Oh.
Both in thought and artistic works, postmodernism embraces fragmentation and multiplicity, stories, perspectives, and identities that are presented as incomplete, shifting, or contradictory. The idea that a story can have things that actually contradict itself midway, or will shift into a completely different direction, unthought of, or will allow an idea to be incomplete.
Yeah, the spring arc is entirely the idea of a contradiction, where an Uma, it needs to be loved and mourned and cried over in its defeat.
Yeah.
Or the fact that the killing of the seasons causes the punishment to begin with.
100%. I think there's no actual question. It is just a postmodern manga.
Yeah.
Like, we thought it out, we looked at it, it's agreed. Undead Unluck is a postmodern manga. Congratulations, Undead Unluck. We are postmodernists in the manga world. The reason I chose this particular piece for you to draw is I thought that the story of Void, I agree. I think it was one of the most beautiful things ever. I think it couldn't have been built or done in a way that was as beautiful as it was, unless it had been built on what she did with Nico. But I also think that it was a great way of reminding somebody so big and so powerful that they needed to be more than so big and so powerful. And they were going to have to bring their full self into it, because I think that by the time we get Void, the new Void, and Void joins our group, he is a different incredible person who actually adds like a whole different level of talent.
This dude has purpose. He has been shown that the world is his ring and that he is a monster fighting monsters. That's great.
You know what? I didn't stunningly love the fight in the jungle when we got Disc and stuff, but I sure did love getting to see Mr. Billy.
I liked the fight in the jungle. It felt a bit more messy in how it was staged than a lot of what we got in this section.
I think that in comparison to the other ones, if I'd seen this area in the first part of the manga, I would have been like, oh my God, that was so good.
Yeah, with what it's currently up against, things are different.
Yeah, and it came on the back of our fight with Void, and that's hard. That's a hard backup against you. Like, what are you going to do when you come off of Void?
No, it just felt like there was less of a clear sense of who was where doing what than a lot of what I think this mangaka is capable of.
It felt like One Piece in the beginning with the fighting, where I'd be like, what's taking place here?
Yeah, it was just a little sloppier. Dude, people want us to address Sean the goat because everyone apparently likes him, and again, Sean's fine. That's my Sean take.
We're not there yet anyway.
Sean is before the war.
What?
Yeah, he was there.
Was he?
Yes. Okay, so here's our Sean take. She forgot he was there.
You know what? You know what, guys? Tell me why to like Sean. That's on you now. Make me like him.
The thing Sean most contributed to in this for me was that I hate when people sneak aboard rocket ships in media because it's like,
stupid.
It's so dumb. You would wreck everything. So the fact that Gina had to train him to use his powers so he could become weightless is actually really great. I really, really like what that added because it took seriously the limitations of why they couldn't have brought more people on. It let them bring more people on without causing problems and without wrecking the story. Great job.
I'm super glad that we reattached the idea in this story that personality, strengths, and everything live in the soul.
Yeah.
I do wonder, though, if they are saying the soul is in the brain.
I mean, the soul isn't in the brain if you get it pulled out by Soul Calibur.
Andy claims, remember, Andy made it so that the soul is nowhere. It's everywhere.
Well, if you're alive, the soul is with you. So I think he just still has a soul because he's still alive.
I think it just moved to the brain. And I love Phil.
I gotta be real. This is definitely the part that I cared least about in this section. I still really liked it. If it was earlier in the manga, I'd like it a lot more. But again, our standards are up. And this is, of the parts we read, this is the part I felt the least about.
Yeah, I love space stories. So I was into it just for the space. And I thought it was interesting that we had a alien that was based off targeting emotions, but it also felt convenient.
That sort of is the problem, isn't it? Is that like,
yeah,
it felt like that was there just to make a point, and that's,
yeah,
you know.
So then I was like, if it's going to be that convenient, then I want it to be a trick of God.
Yeah.
Because by making it a trick of God, then you can describe why it isn't just accidental this thing goes. And so that's why I was kind of like, no offense to this section, but it feels too convenient.
Yeah.
So point out that it came from God or something.
I guess the way it's done is by having your feelings removed just as you have proof you can feel is the way it could be a trick of God.
Yeah. Or that the Uma creature alien thing or the alien creature should have been created intentionally to go after emotions in an ironic, mean twist with Phil.
Yeah. To prove he has emotions just as they're taken away.
Yeah. And then it wouldn't just feel convenient. It would feel baked in. And I would like that.
I guess where we're supposed to be at with the story is we assume that that's the case, that if something is convenient, we're supposed to assume that it's them.
The other good part about this was watching Unchange grab Phil and be willing to take her life so to the extreme.
Yeah.
That was beautiful. And that she said she wants to be her second and da-da-da-da-da. All of that was great. I was here for it. But I would say the war was good. The space was probably a little above the war for me, though.
I liked the war better than the space because I liked how things were handled with Billy at the end. I liked the little shoot off. I don't know. They together are the section that felt the least impactful for me. I know this technically has a tournament, but guys, I don't feel like we can call this a tournament arc. It just doesn't have tournament arc energy. You know how like definitionally a hot dog is a lot like a sandwich? It doesn't pass the tournament arc vibe check, guys.
No, this one is more explainable. Fuuko fights and wins and goes to the top. Like, come on, that's not a tournament. It's just not.
Yeah.
I love the way we're doing Billy's negator powers now.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that they were reframed. I guess if they're unlocked by a different feeling, they can change how they work slightly.
Well, not just you guess, they just can.
That's just a rule that was just introduced, though.
Billy now has expanded controls and can layer his powers now?
Well, he could always use multiple at once.
But he's no longer limited by how many negations he can use at once.
Oh, he could have a max of 6? Okay.
Now it's unlimited. You know those people that when you break up with them just won't take no for a reason? And they're going to tell you all the reasons you were wrong to break up with them and how great they are?
Yeah.
That's Sean. That's who Sean is.
Yeah, I mean, like, he doesn't do that really, but it is just the energy he provides. Like,
you can tell from his energy with how important he needs to feel and how he runs around being like, if people aren't paying attention to me, then I won't be important enough. And I need to be the main character all the time. And don't people understand? And no, I can't give you this space and time because if I do, I'll be less. Like, exact opposite of fuuko. Exact opposite.
It do come across that way.
If you were to break up with him, he would be like, don't you understand who I am? How are you trying to pull down my entire sense of self? I'm Sean.
My entire thing is I'm Sean.
Big middle child energy? Oh my God, you have just hurt every middle child known.
I need you to judge something very important, okay? There are 2 problematic men that chat seems to be in love with, and I need you to tell them which one is more dateable, Feng or Sean?
Sean. But only marginally.
There we go, chat. You heard it here first.
Well, Feng is strong. I did forget that.
If we're talking just personality, fuuko.
Yes, okay. But like in actuality, I'd probably date... Oh my God, who would you date in here? Who would you date in here?
We have to qualify powers are part of it, so not fuuko, because like that's some issues. That's some real issues.
You can't date somebody who, if you kiss them, you die.
Ishin's kind of up there. Maybe Juice.
Juice, I could see that. We haven't met Juice yet either. Ooh, Juice is a good one. I forgot that. Okay, no, I'm taking that away from you. Only people we've seen so far.
Well, then I'm going to take back Ishin because that's a baby. That was a contender I had because last time we saw her, she was a grown woman. Now she's a baby.
Yeah, no, don't date babies. It's gross.
Oh, you know who actually is Ichiko?
Yeah, that's who I was going to pick.
It's Ichiko for sure.
I might marry what's-his-face, who I didn't like before. Muse person.
Monkey Man?
Monkey Man. Didn't I say I basically hated him last arc?
Not last arc, but you were kind of mid on him.
I thought he was really mid. Like, he was high on himself. He wasn't, like, giving enough attention to Mew or understanding how great she was. But, like, I could marry Shen.
I'll say this arc made Feng and Shen both more likable as characters, although Feng still kind of sucks. Someone's like, Feng went from downright despicable to I can fix him.
I agree.
All that's been changed is we found out his backstory was he only fought for self-defense until he beat the shit out of someone and realized he could beat people up harder.
Can I just take this here for a minute?
You can go for it.
When we were doing the thing and he was like, you made me change their diapers and feed her. And then there was that part where we saw him in bed and the baby was in the little side bed thing. And the little boy Shen was grabbing Feng's arm. And I realized that inside of him, it became in the moment where the older people that he had fought before said, no, we've left it now to the future. And then Shen says, you should leave it to us, father. That I realized that Feng in this round knows that he is a father. He sees it differently because of the way that fuuko engaged him with, I need you to take care of this kid and it needs to be yours. And then the other one said, no, I'll kill myself behind your back if you don't take her. And so something in him switched because of the way that fuuko engaged how he would take care of Shen and his sister. So when he calls him father, I was like, oh no, everyone's there. It's a little bit of vibes, but it's a little bit of evidence. He became literally, I saw that if you were the type of person who went for toxic people that you could fix, that now people would be like, no, he's hot, I could fix him.
All right, I'll let you people have this, but also I beat people up so good. And then you don't understand.
He understands that he's a father in there. Part of him understands now. He really does.
All right.
I'm telling you, he does. He's now become, and where do you get off talking? The squishies know your issue with toxic women. Who is it that you have the hots for?
We got a list.
Give me two.
Okay, so we have York and we also have Charlotte Smoothie. So there is a problem.
Exactly. You can't say that you like York and Charlotte Smoothie and not understand people loving Feng.
Guys, have you thought about that York has cute freckles?
See, no, you do not get to talk about Feng. Feng's hot. Okay, you know what? I'm on the Feng's hot train now. Gina is great. Mew is great. They're all hot. She looks so good with muscles. She makes me want to lift weights.
Honestly, there is nothing that makes me lift weights more than real life man Iffy Wataway. There is no gigantic man I think is as hot as Iffy Wataway. That guy, I lift more every time I watch content that has Iffy Wataway in it. Wait, people want us to talk about Untell because we skipped him and he's fine. He's okay. There we go.
Oh god, guys, if we didn't mention them, were they even worth mentioning?
That's the thing. There's very rarely do we not mention a character and we loved them and felt like they had a huge impact on the story.
Like that's so rude, and yet kinda. Somebody said Untell got bunnied.
Untell got bunnied for sure.
Can I just say something about Untell? I think that the author wrote Untell specifically this way so that you don't really remember them much. I mean, for God's sakes, people forget Untell's words and any information he tells them. Like, he is a person who you hear stuff and he erases your memory from your mind. All that's happened to Drawk and I is he was erased from our minds.
Yeah. Oh, we didn't talk about Creed, and in this section, Creed's fine, and his backstory was pretty sad.
Oh my god. Did we not talk about Creed?
No, I liked Creed in this section fine. I thought he was okay.
He's strong. He's a good sense of justice.
It's tragic that he was ordered to stay until he ran out of ammo, and then he couldn't run out of ammo.
Yeah, that was a little bit sad. I also really loved Creed in space. I thought Creed popped off a little bit there.
Creed did good in space. He was one of the better parts.
I think that in space, I think Creed was my favorite part.
Honestly, yeah.
Oh, you know when else I really liked Creed? I really liked Creed when he told Fuuko that I think that you're not taking into consideration the type of leader you are because you're putting me in as the first leader, but here's my evidence that you're the right leader. I thought that was very perceptive, and so I enjoyed that. I think that he's going to become a character that I'm going to grow to love. The more I think about Creed, the more I like him.
Yeah, I liked him in the first loop too. There's one terrible thing about Creed's character.
What is it?
His power is called undecrease instead of unlimited.
Oh, I hate it.
What the is undecrease? You know who I liked him a lot better than in space?
Who?
Sean.
Who's that dude we couldn't remember the name of again? The guy who says things and makes you forget about him? Ella. I wonder if he's going to become more interesting because people here seem a little sad for him.
You know what advantage he has, though?
He never has to worry what he said at a party the next day.
Well, that, but also...
If you break up with him, he's not going to say anything.
That's kind of where I'm thinking, right?
So that's pretty cool. Good for you, Untell.
You're being really rude to him. How did Billy become a blind mercenary leader before he had superpowers?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I
feel like you'd have some real problems mercenarying as a blind man, is my assumption. Now, if there are blind sharpshooters out there who want to correct me, I'm here for it. He's just really good at gun is true.
All right. Are you ready?
I was born ready.
fuuko, S++.
I was thinking the same thing. There's a new tier.
Were you really?
I was thinking the exact same thing. I was going to say we need new heights.
Oh my god. I'm so glad we're on the same page because I was like, this is a different level.
The bar has been raised. From now on, from this I think might be the only S++ she ever gets. Hear me out on why. From here on out, I think this is what an S+ looks like.
Yep, I would agree.
Well, I think she only gets S++ if she raises the standards again.
I agree. But in the meantime, this is S++. This was like beyond anything I could have hoped for.
This was incredible. This was unbelievable. This was unprecedented.
Unmatched, unattained. I'm going to give Undead a B.
What's the grade for you didn't show up to class?
He gets a B. He made the sign.
You know what? He made a sign.
And then it was a really touching sign.
Put trust in our girl, and that's important.
Yes. And he made Fuuko know how much faith he had in her before he left to do his shit. And I mean, I can't give that a C because it was something important that had to be done.
I will agree with you on a B.
I mean, I would agree with Easy Killer that it was literally the easiest B ever earned in the history of Bs.
Yes, he did all his homework to get the passing grade. That's a good point.
He's like, tiny stone message. Done.
Let's do favorite minor character first. Ooh, interesting. We got a lot of choices for favorite minor character.
I would tell you, Feng is not a minor character, P.S.
I'm going to pick a minor character. They're incredibly minor, very insignificant to the plot. My favorite minor character is Sean.
Funny as shit.
Discord couldn't pick up your laughs. You were just gone for like 30 seconds.
You don't understand. I was laughing so hard. I was grounded. I fell off my chair. Oh, Jesus, God. God. Oh, my God.
Who's your favorite minor character?
Oh, God. I have no words. I don't know anymore. Just all I can see is freaking Sean. All I can see is Sean standing there like, are you fucking kidding me, man? Someone who barely matters. I'm gonna make Andy's mom my favorite minor character.
Andy's? You mean Phil?
Phil's mom.
Yeah, Phil's mom.
You know what? No, Phil's mom's fine. You know who I'm going to make my favorite minor character? Are all those poor lab bastards who were left behind for 20 years.
That's a really good one.
Those are who my minor characters are. And they're a group because they did so good. Sorry, Phil's mom, you've fallen off the edge. I do that. You can talk to Nami. So it's going to be all the awesome scientists who were left behind for 20 years and built up our lab so great.
But that's perfect.
Okay, what was one of the other ones?
We like to have a favorite moment. We like to have our top drip. We like to do our top 5. And favorite moment, we were trying to pick stuff that's not the obvious best, most beloved stuff, like something that spoke to us uniquely.
Do we do a favorite panel and a favorite moment in this? Because my favorite panel is the punching one, but it's not my favorite moment. What's your favorite panel?
I mean, same thing. It's the best one. My favorite moment was genuinely seeing Fuuko lift up her arm and see bullets touching her skin made me immediately understand what was about to happen, and it was so sick.
Aw, that's cool.
I couldn't help that when I read that part, I said to myself, gun, pistol, and I thought that was funny.
Oh, that's amazing. You're not wrong. That is totally gun, pistol. My very favorite moment was when Fuuko stole Ichiko's soul and there was all the part and then it flips forward and all he goes is, thank freaking goodness, Ichiko. And everyone thought that there was going to be this big fight. I'm sound asleep. Yeah, thanks a bunch, Fuuko. The only thing that puts this blah, blah, blah. Hey, look, Nico, now I'll never fall behind you again. No matter, it's only a time before the lab director's seat is mine and and then it flips to him. Thank freaking goodness, Ichiko. And I was like, that was my favorite moment.
It was very cute.
It was such love. Like, we didn't need a bunch of words. We didn't need a bunch of things. We just got to see exactly how deep his love was. And that was awesome.
Is it just me, or is this manga pretty great?
Hey, if you aren't reading this...
Way to make bad choices.
It's possible. You have terrible taste. No. It's not subjective.
Taste isn't subjective. Sandwiches are subjective.
I've heard about sandwiches being subjective. Drip. It's time for drip.
This wasn't the drippiest section.
You know what? I have my top drip. It was little Gina becoming Gina.
Mine's Mewy, because have you seen her with her space buns and her crazy hair?
Mewy's amazing, and really the top drip is Feng, because he's strong. But little Gina finding out about Gina and wearing the jacket, like that drip came into play. So for me, it's that.
Okay.
And then Feng, because he's naked, and you know I always choose naked people as top drip.
That's so real.
Oh, although Fuuko's military outfit was so adorable.
The military toque with the good luck on it, so funny.
And her whole outfit, she looked tight, like it was put together. That's a hard call. I might change mine to Fuuko's military outfit, even though Gina's my emotional pick. No, I'm not going to. Because for God's sakes, in the inside lapel of Gina's little coat, it has the thing that has the little heart at the top with the arrow. No, baby. No, I'm picking it. Gina's dripped out. I'm done with that. Okay, here we go. Who is my number one? Okay, my number one, I was going to make Gina before she got on the rocket, and then I took her off because it's not appropriate. It's not appropriate. It's not appropriate to get on the rocket and screw up a possible...
I mean, she did make sure she would be weightless before committing to it.
I'm sorry. No, it's not appropriate. I thought that Gina should be number one as well. But then I also realized that I was kind of being wrong about that. And I know who should be number one.
Yeah?
And it's Nico.
That's absolutely fair. I think there will be no surprise that my choice for number 2 is Void.
My number 3 is Gina.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah for Gina. My number 5 is Monkey Man.
Really?
I appreciated Monkey Man a lot more than I ever have before.
Oh, I did too. Do not get me wrong. Number 5 can be filled. He just gave me number 4 is all.
No, he said fill, not filled. Yeah, he was suggesting 5 should be fill, and I was like, oh, come on. That's monkey.
No, I'm not making it filled. Don't be ridiculous. Nothing. Phil is not.
You know what's ironic? I don't feel a lot for Phil. Hey, guys, Phil has something great going for him, though.
Nope, don't. Drawk, you took the number I was going to take, and I had a person for that, so I'm going to have to do it as number 4. I don't have a choice.
That's how it be.
It's unending.
Creed? I think Creed, honestly, being ahead of Shen is fine for me this time. I think that works.
Yeah.
I think this is a good top 5. I think we did good.
I think so too.
So we're going to read 168 together.
Yeah, right now.
Exclamation point! Master Shen, thank goodness. Fuuko, Shen's up. Big brother! My wounds are healed. Don't tell me. You used a pill on me! What about your little brother's portion? And you're hurt yourself, Mui. What about... I'm fine.
Since you held yourself back at the last moment, I managed with Mr. Nico's treatment. As for my little brother, I gave him half of a pill, and he has made a full recovery. Oh, good, all that hard work was worth it then. I've been told unless I do this, she covers his eyes, I'll end up saying the opposite. Thank you for what you've done, truly. But you shouldn't be so reckless. You made a promise, didn't you? Huh? I need you to stay healthy until we are both old and gray. Never would I have pegged him as an obedient boyfriend type. By the way, where is everyone, Miss Fuuko and the others? Well, shows the battlefield.
Wait a second, why are you fighting? Crap, out of time, huh? What a shame. If you could have gotten a single round on me before my dumb disciple awoke, I would have joined your little motley crew. Hey, don't you value your dear disciple's life at all? Do as you please with Shen. I am no longer obligated to rear him. What? Hey! Right, I'll do as I please. I'll be taking Yui also. What? As you wish. Yui isn't your freaking disciple! Fuuko Izumo is the woman who defeated me. Being under her care is the quickest way to achieve your goal of becoming the strongest. Hurry and become the strongest, so that I can be the strongest myself, old man. Farewell. Mr. Feng, wait a second. Sorry, Mr. Shen. Oh god, that's horrible.
Wait. She opens his eyeball as big as she can. The thing is, the next mission I have in store will be proving to be quite tough. I'll get dry eye at this rate. So I would love it if I could borrow your help. I need you just this once. Why, you and your shrewd ways know no bounds. However, a mission that a woman of your caliber fears is intriguing. Does that mean I'll hear you out? Whether I will agree to it depends on the details. Damn you all, says Apocalypse. This is a sacred round table. Quit using it as an assembly hall outside of quests. It took 200 long, tough years.
But we're finally halfway there. Yeah, our numbers have grown quite a bit. It's all because everyone had faith. Our current numbers of negators is 13. Now all we need are the last 11. And now we look at them all. And I definitely know all these people. For sure, I remember every single one of them. Especially the guy with the visor.
There's Girl and Rip and Boy.
Latla, Unmoved, Tatiana, Top.
There's some rabbit.
There's a rabbit for some reason.
Listen, this rabbit better be important. Like, it better do something to not make me want to be like, shut up.
I look at Unburn and I'm like, yeah, you're here.
Yeah, and we got Juice. Leave it to me, no matter what tragedy comes our way. The boss's right-hand gal, her eternal number 2. Good old Gina. We found the boss. Widening the search range like you instructed was the right call. All right, thank you very much. Our next member, huh? Now that I've managed a war, I'm ready to face anything. Fuuko? Why are you grinning? You seem awfully excited. Oh, no reason. I guess you can say it's half worry and half excitement. Our next mission will involve infiltration as well as long-term combat. Long-term combat? The setting for this mission is totally foreign to me. Anything could happen at any time. I'll need 10 to accompany. 10? Is this even worse than the war zone? I will now announce the participants.
Gina, heck yeah! Sean, and Mr. Billy. God. Sure, there's no heights this time around. Mr. Ishian, Me God, me, Mr. Shen, Mui, Mr. Nico, and Miss Ichiko. She's taking this many people? Must be one heck of a mission. Yeah, I bet. And also myself and one other. Can I ask for your help, Mr. Feng? A mission that's making you shake with excitement? Yes. I can only imagine what strong fighters await. I can't wait.
The location is Japan. Come on, please, dude. Let me see your notebook. That old fart is really scary when he gets mad. Please, Chikara. Man, you're a handful. Fine, just this once. You're a lifesaver. Oh my, this isn't your class, is it? Oops, sorry, ma'am. Heading back there now. Rio, you better hurry back with those notes before second period chemistry. Now then, before homework starts, I'd like to introduce our new transfer student. Transfer student? That's rare. Come in.
I'm the one and only Gina from Russia. Totes nice to meet ya. Gina, tone it down. I'm from Tokyo. My name is Fuuko Izumo. Very nice to meet you. Yeah. A Gyaro girl, a perfectly normal girl. It's a Gara fashion girl, flashy culture. It's a Japanese thing. And a perfectly normal girl next to her. Okay, the two of you can sit down next to Shigeno. What? Nice to meet you. What? Dissatisfied? The high school life I've always dreamed of. Gosh, my heart is racing.
Ken, student. Mui, student. Sean, student. Ishin, principal. Your name? Shigeno. Then why's that name on here? Crap. I copied everything, name and all. Nico, chemistry teacher. Everyone is all set, right? In order to prevent Chika's tragedy. Billy, history teacher. I like that Billy is reading a book blind. Carry on.
Yeah, he's probably in Braille. Look, it's got little Braille symbols under the letters.
Okay, good. Carry on. The union will be hijacking this school. Ichiko, school nurse. You set me up, Feng, PE teacher. You set me up, Fuuko Izumo. Sorry. Gina, student.
This is so silly. I love it.
Amazing. Okay, I'm so glad that we're in high school. I'm familiar with this setting. I think I'll like it.
Yeah, that's weird that you feel like you know the setting that this is going to take place in so well. I mean, she's a grown-ass woman going to high school, but also she was only 18, 19 when she got frozen in time, so she would be able to pass for high schooler.
Yeah, she looks
She
18.
is 200.
218.
Well, I mean, she's like 190 total, right? So
I don't know why you're on her.
I don't think it ruins this. I don't think it ruins anything that she's an immortal vampire coming to high school. I think it's fine. She's allowed to do that.
As long as she's not hooking up with anyone.
Yeah, just don't. And I don't think she will because she's waiting for Andy.
Yeah, well, I would imagine because she can't hook up with anyone because we talked about that. She kills them.
Yeah, I agree with you, Odd D user. I think the second two people have both lived longer with magical powers than any human ever could. Age difference no longer means anything. Like with two immortals who are older than anyone could ever live, it truly doesn't matter.
I think you're at a point where you're just like, whatever. You know what? They had to do it anyways because Andy, the immortal longtime person, and then her, the actual 19-year-old, would have been like barfaroni. But her having like 200 years now.
Yeah, it works.
We're good.
It works really well.
Yeah, she's gone through a different level of maturing now. And what are we going to say? Andy can't hook up with anyone who's not at least 3 billion years old?
Yeah, okay. The fact that she's like an 18-year-old going to class with a bunch of 15-year-olds is weirder, but some girls do just like... I find it's way more common for a 15-year-old girl to look 18 than with boys, so I think she can get away with it. It just is weird. Like...
Yeah. Where are we reading to next? 198.
That means there's only like 2 more episodes of this.
Are you serious? We're almost done this one?
Dude.
Anyways, if I was going to date anyone in this manga, it would be Fuuko.
I mean...
Fuuko is prime.
Yeah, no, of course, yeah. The only issue is that she kills you.
Ugh. That's a minor issue. It's tricky, you guys. It's tricky to rock a rhyme, not rock around. It's tricky to rock a rhyme to rock a rhyme that's right on time. It's tricky. Tricky.
You don't know the curse you inflict on her when you mention 90s and early 2000s hip-hop.
Hey, this line work is better. I think I'll take a nap. I've been
unfiltered!
I've been unhinged.
And until next time.
Squish on squishies.
And lovely talking to you.
Read which had a telly. Bang is hot. Choo-choo.